So I offer my warm greeting. Good morning to our friends in North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK, Europe. Good early evening to our friends in Dubai. Good evening to our friends in India, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia. Good late evening to our friends in Australia. Hope that you're well. Nice to see your faces. We're meditating together. My teacher, Tanatananand, is building a large chedi, and he recently came to our Katina ceremony at Anandagiri, and there were some nice photographs taken, and several people noticed and commented that Anandagiri is quite photogenic and beautiful. And so Tanatan invited me to discuss some design aspects of his chedi. And that was really fun, actually, talking about different shades of blue with my teacher. Possible colors for the inside of the dome. Should we go with champagne gold, one of my favorites, or autumn blue sky, wedgwood blue, cobalt blue? Of course, we're both kind of, it's quite interesting. So I believe Tanatan's enlightened, so this enlightened master with his iPad and me with my iPad doing searches on different colors and showing examples of cathedrals and mosques. And Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai has a wedgwood blue dome. I went there once. On the way down to see Tanatan, I was able to stop in and see Lumpur Biek and offer him a nice gift. As many people know, I was recently given a ceremonial title, official title, and a ceremonial fan. And in my process of trying to make my ceremonial fan have more meaning to me, I asked my teachers to bless it. So it's like when I use it in a ceremony now, it'll be like I'm going with a big amulet blessed by my teacher. So it works for me. Other things of the chedi, Tanatan had to consider things like what type of marble, what color granite, whether to use stucco or whether to use teak carvings, all those kind of things. And I have some experience of these things now. It's fun to share the experience, make suggestions, brainstorm. He still has a couple more years of his chedi project. It's a big one. But it's a very beautiful space. And of course it will have relics inside and a large area for circumambulating and a place for meditating and teaching. So it will be a beautiful practice space as well. So that's a little bit of what I've been up to. I believe we have some questions, JC. Oh, and I forgot to mention, today I went to the Emerald Buddha Temple. Being in Bangkok, it was closed for about 6 months because of COVID restrictions, and it just opened up again. And about 5 monks passed through, and amazingly enough, I knew 3 of them out of 5. They're all forest monks from different provinces, but we all decided to go to the Emerald Buddha on the same day at the same time. It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes you really see these kind of karmic networks. And 2 of those monks had passed through Anandagiri on Tudong earlier in the year. One of those monks had spent a rainy season retreat with me 7 years ago. And I used to love to go to the Emerald Buddha and not be anybody and not try to be anybody and let go into spaciousness of course, I've stayed at the Emerald Buddha now, and some of the officials know me. So after an hour and a half of meditating, one of the very senior people came and said, "Ajahn, can I pay respects to you?" And then, "Ajahn, would you like to do some chanting in the innermost sanctum?" So that actually worked out quite well, because at least I got to sit for an hour and a half before, and then I got to do some nice chanting. Something happens to my voice. I don't know what it is. When I do chanting in the Emerald Buddha now, it comes out very loud, and I can't seem to adjust the volume switch. And it's a bit, I don't know. One doesn't want to impinge on other people's meditation. So this chanting is coming out really loud, and I just can't turn it down. It's quite weird. But Ajahn said the Devas want me to chant loud. They want to hear it. They want to chant along. So I don't know how they affect the inner volume switch, but it's interesting. Anyway, we have some questions, JC. We have many questions. Please begin.
Question 1. Hi Ajahn. There are baby centipedes in my bathroom. Sometimes only one will crawl out of nowhere. I will kill it, otherwise it will grow big and bite someone or myself. What is my karma? Since I shifted to my apartment, I think I have killed about 10 baby centipedes in a period of 14 months. I also kill ants and mosquitoes. What shall I do?
What shall I do? I don't know what you shall do, but what I recommend that you do is try not to kill beings if you can. So I'm going to give a little story. You like stories. Students of Ajahn like stories. So one story I once heard from a Pakau, an Anagarika, a preceptor living at Bayakiri many years ago. He wasn't sure about karma at first, but then someone that he knew was driving home from work on a remote country road, all alone. No cars coming this way or that way, driving home. And a branch fell off a tree, smashed the windscreen, and pierced her heart. And she died, of course. And after that, this man had decided that he believes in karma, because what are the chances of a branch breaking off a tree, smashing a windscreen, and piercing a person's heart right at that moment in that way? So he took on belief in karma. So what does this have to do with killing centipedes, you may be wondering? If you reduce the lifespan of other beings, your lifespan will be reduced. It's a simple equation. So people kind of think that they can negotiate. They think they can, you're going to get to the gates of hell and you can kind of negotiate with Yama or whatever. It's like, well, maybe not. It's not some pompous, powerful, judgmental deity that you can bargain with. It's the law of karma, and it's the most powerful thing in samsara. And sometimes you can't bargain with it. You can try to dedicate merits, you can try to spread metta, you try to make things to ameliorate your negative karmas, lessen the heavy consequences or increase the positive consequences. However, if you make a lot of a certain type of karma, at a certain point, there's literally no escaping it. So if you squash many beings and shorten their lifespan, and if it's a couple of months and then it's a couple every week and then it's a couple every day because you get into this habit, something very heavy might just fall on you and squash you one day. So when you ask, what shall I do? I hope that you're mindful when something squashes you. You better meditate a lot and you better be ready to be squashed. So, you know, there are other things you could do. For example, if it's a small centipede, as you're saying they are, you can get some kind of a soft cloth, drop the cloth on it, gently push the cloth together like a hand towel sized cloth, squeeze up the centipede, take it outside and let it go. If you do that, you're actually developing loving kindness, you're developing compassion, you're developing mindfulness, you're developing patience. So when you have the response, it's another important thing to be mindful of. See something that you don't like, anticipate a future threat, want to get rid of it, kill it. That's actually a moment of hatred. It's a hateful act. So you're increasing your karma with hate. And you're increasing your habit to react impatiently and violently. So it might start with, you know, we as forest monks, we're not allowed to kill mosquitoes. So we blow them off our arm or shoo them off. And once you do that a few thousand times, I live in Asia, you do develop more patience with irritating phenomena and more kind of a sense of graciousness and stepping lightly on the earth. So what shall I do? I hope that you shall become more patient, more compassionate, more mindful, and increase the likelihood of having a long life and stop increasing the likelihood of having your life cut short.
Thank you, Prajan. Prajan, question number 2. Hi, Ajahn. Is it the case that except for the meditation time, at all the other times that things we are doing is always associating with Mara, as doing either good or bad is creating causes to continue with samsara? Is this correct understanding? Thank you so much, Ajahn.
This is partially correct. The bad news is, you want the good news or the bad news? I'll start with the bad news. The bad news is that even while you're meditating, you're making karma with Mara. So there are 5 Maras, and Mara, the deity, who lives in the Paranimitta Vasavati realm, 2 levels higher than Tushita heaven. So Mara, the being, has enormous parami. And to have enormous accumulated virtue, that means that he was very, very good for a very long time. And at a certain point, he made a mistake. He decided that rather than be virtuous, he would try out what it might be like to be the CEO of Kilesa Incorporated. And so it's like in Star Wars, he decided to be the emperor of the dark force. Now, of course, Mara will have a certain amount of power for a while, but when his life ends, and he doesn't know this because he's deluded by his lust for power, he doesn't know this, but he's probably going to have to go to Avicii hell for a very, very, very long time, you see, because in Samsara, it's a great big recycling machine where you can go from a God realm to a hell realm in a few moments. So, but with regards making karma, so one of the Maras of the 5 Maras, one of them is karma Mara. So everything that creates karma, wholesome karma, neutral karma, unwholesome karma, is all making karma, which is part of what binds you to the wheel of samsara. You do wholesome things, you're going to have more pleasant experience. You do unwholesome things, you're going to have more unpleasant experience. You do neutral things, you're going to have neutral experience. But it's all bound up in the realm of cyclic existence. And another of the Maras is Kanda Mara, which means your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your consciousness. It's all part of the realm of death, conditions which are bound to arise and cease. So even when you're making the most wholesome karma, you're still in samsara. You're just aiming for the brighter and more pleasant parts of it, which is good, because being in the brighter and more pleasant parts of samsara, you get more opportunities to meet with wisdom teachings and then actually start working with the conditions that lead to the unconditioned. So you actually have to work with Mara in a way. You have to know what Mara is. There's that phrase in the suttas, I know you, Mara. So you don't, it's not like Star Wars where you can kill the Emperor. That's just gonna that just made you turn over to the dark side. I was very disappointed many years ago when I saw Kung Fu Panda in Australia at my mum's place, because he was doing all this kind of Asian stuff, right? All this kind of Buddhist stuff, and he made his mind more powerful. And then in the end, he got some, if I remember correctly, it was a long time ago, he squeezed the evil being between his two fingers and blew him up, which is a very un-Buddhist and un-Asian concept. You don't create a powerful mind so that you go and nuke somebody. So I was very disappointed in Kung Fu Panda, I have to confess. Kung Fu Panda needs to go back to basic Buddhist principles. What we have to destroy is our greed, hatred, and delusion, while having a commitment to harmlessness. So, you know, unless you're a police officer or a soldier who is paid to have an oath and are paid to kill enemies, foreign and domestic, we don't do that as nice Buddhists. And so auspicious karmas give us opportunities. When we have opportunities, we have to cultivate the conditions that will lead to the unconditioned. One of the most important of those is mindfulness. We were just doing a guided meditation. So Lord Buddha, after his enlightenment, reviewing, he's like, wow, how did I accomplish this? This is amazing. People aren't even going to understand this. This is so incredible. It goes against the stream of samsara. It's hard to penetrate. He was considering whether or not he would teach beings, because most people wouldn't get it. And he's like asking himself, how is this possible? What conditions made this possible? And he saw these 4 foundations of mindfulness, when made much of, when cultivated, lead to the deathless and merge in the deathless. But mindfulness itself is still a condition. It's just the most wholesome of them. Now, of course, to have good mindfulness, that's where you need your foundation of generosity and you need your good ethical standards, because breaking your precepts damages your mindfulness. If you have too much greed, too much covetousness, that also damages your mindfulness. So we practice generosity and we keep our ethical precepts to support the cultivation of mindfulness. And of course, we have to meditate quite a lot, because most people have some mindfulness. You couldn't tie your shoelaces or drive a car if you didn't have it. But people's mindfulness is fuzzy and distracted. So it's not powerful enough to help the mind see the nature of conditions clearly. So when you cultivate a good standard, a good quality of mindfulness, you will start to mindfulness can be translated as truth discerning awareness. So you're cultivating a quality of clarity, which is going to see things according to their truthful nature. So it's important to understand that the mind is affected by ignorance and delusion. What does that mean? It means what you think is real isn't. So we need to understand that we are deluded. So the reason, and when people are deluded, unfortunately, they often aren't very self-aware. You don't wake up and think, oh, I'm deluded. You wake up and you think, Why did he say that? Why did he say that? He shouldn't have said that. Why did he get the promotion? I should have got the promotion. Why did this political party get elected? I don't like that. Okay, it's all delusion. It's all a world and a self and others and the past and the future. It's deluded. But that's where we start. And the more mindfulness you get, you develop your mindfulness more and more and more, you start to see that thoughts are just thoughts. They arise and they cease. They're not I, they're not mine, they're not self. Feelings arise and they cease. Various consciousnesses associated with these arise and cease. So mindfulness is what helps you see things according to the truth. And when you see things according to the truth, what happens is the power of delusion gets weaker. It's like shining a bright light. Mindfulness has this quality of being bright, or at least clear. It has a quality of clarity. So the mind is dark and clouded. And when you practice right mindfulness, you're bringing clarity to the situation. And what's happening is that darkness is evaporating slowly. And then that mindful quality is what's going to allow the mind, combined with wise reflection and some samadhi, is going to allow the mind to have insights into ultimate truth. And that's when you get out of Mara's snare. It's also interesting to understand that cosmologically speaking, when you're in jhana samadhi, so if a person has a really good samadhi, powerful samadhi, during that time, apparently Mara cannot locate you in samsara. It's very interesting. So if a person, a monk or a nun or a good practitioner goes into jhana samadhi, Mara cannot find you. You'll be looking all over samsara. Where are they? Where are they? They can't find them. Come out of samadhi, and Mara's kind of, there you are. I'll find you again. Very interesting. So obviously samadhi is utterly wholesome, but if it's not combined with insight, you're still going to come out of your samadhi and you're still going to be in Mara's trap. So this is where samadhi has to be combined with consistent mindfulness and wise investigation to have penetrative insight. So mindfulness is like the bridge or the raft that will take you to the other shore. It's still a condition. And but it's probably the most powerful condition that leads to the unconditioned. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you realize how important it is, and I hope you put effort into cultivating a good quality of clarity, presence of mind, and don't do things which make your mind darker.
Thank you so much, Prajan. Prajan, question number 3. Good evening, Ka Ajan. Thank you for your kindness. And I do have a question. I hope you could answer, Ka. I have a Catholic boyfriend. He's not very strict, not very religious at all. As a Buddhist, I practice and keep my precepts. Also believe in rebirth and reincarnation. I wonder how people like my boyfriend who never have a chance to create merit, does not keep any precept, does not practice or meditate, how can they earn their good karma enough to reborn again? He sometimes goes with me to temple for my late mother's ceremony, and that's all. Will I have a chance to meet him again in next life? I always wonder. He is generous and kind to people and animals, etc. But is that enough, Ka? What is your suggestion? Thank you.
So with regards rebirth, we don't need to make merit to get reborn. We are all going to be reborn. It's just that if you don't have much merit, you're going to be born in a situation with less opportunities and more suffering. So you can't not be reborn. We are in cyclic existence. We are in the realm of death. Everything is being born and dying. And Nibbana is the deathless. That's what we have to actualize, realize, have insight into, because that will transform the mind, uproot the ignorance. So if it's a big problem for modern people, where you could say the level of sila is degenerating quite fast. And I think a lot of people have this kind of sense of, you don't need to have a religion. I met a lot of Australians who said, I'm not religious. If I was going to be religious, I would probably be a Buddhist. It's like, and they're kind of quite pleased with themselves, because when they say that, it's like they've done a bit of study, they know a few things. Buddhism seems to be the best choice. But the whole paragraph, which starts with, I'm not religious. If I was going to be, I would probably be Buddhist. For me, just means, well, inside I'm kind of, oh dear. Because this person isn't yet making steps towards cultivating themselves. It's like, and the tendency in samsara, unfortunately, is to be sliding backwards and downwards, because the power of ignorance and delusion and karma is powerful. So we do need to be cultivating ourselves. And I think as religions have degenerated, so this is the Hindus would say the age of Kali, the Tibetans would call it the Dhamma ending age. Another way to understand it is the darkening part of the eon. So this Lord Buddha came in a period where in general morality is degenerating. And so we can't take the general standard of things, the gestalt of the age of the day, as our standard, because the general level of ethics is getting worse and worse. So we do have to look to the Buddha and the Arahants and listen to their suggestions if we have a healthy self-interest for our own happiness in this and future lives. So just, that kind of just being a nice person is enough. You don't need to be religious. Just being a nice person probably means having a drink with your friends, getting stoned every now and then, right? That's what being a nice person is. Like, not being too up yourself, not wanting to offend anybody with piousness. So yeah, have a drink, get stoned, gossip about people, criticize people. And so, unfortunately, people don't realize this. They think that they're being good people, but they're actually allowing true humanity to degenerate. And the likely destination is the animal realm. And it's hard to convince people of that. It's one of those things that you either have an intuition of or you don't. And this is the thing about Lord Buddha said, his teaching is for people with little dust in their eyes. And a lot of people have bricks in their eyes. So, and it's hard to help those people. So anyway, if you are one of the ones with little dust in your eyes, I am happy for you, and let's keep washing the dust out of our eyes, because the people with bricks in their eyes are making the world a more difficult place to get by in. So if a person doesn't keep ethical precepts, no, this person says, my friend keeps none of the precepts. So I'm pretty sure that the Catholic boyfriend isn't murdering people. So there's probably well, I don't know, but I hope not. There've been some pretty bad Catholics in history. But anyway, there's been lots of nice ones as well. Excuse me. There's been bad Buddhists too. Anyway, sorry. So yes, this person isn't probably killing lots of beings, and they're probably not stealing too much. So there's probably a limit to their immorality. They're probably not a genuinely evil person. Otherwise, this person wouldn't be with them. But we need to understand that if you don't consistently keep the 5 precepts, you are not likely to be born as a human being. And as I was saying earlier, it's not because a pious, judgmental, nasty God is judging you and going to punish you because you weren't nice. He made up some rules, you didn't keep them, damn you to hell. That's not the way it works. The way it works is when you decide to kill a being, you have dosa in your mind. When you decide to have lots and lots of sex with other people's partners, you have a lot of lust in your mind. And if you decide to lie, you're being deceitful. You decide to steal, you're being covetous. And when you act on anger, the mind is dark. When you act on lust, the mind is dark. When you act on deceit and deception and covetousness, your mind is dark. So when you do things that make your mind dark, you can't go to a bright destination. You're the one that dimmed the lights. You're the one that jumped into the abyss. Let's see where this goes. It goes down. And it's hard to get back up. So as the general trend is for more intoxication, both through media and substances, for more casual sex, these apps have made it much easier for people to hook up and just have whatever kind of sex they want to have. And this is dangerous. So I guess, you know, in this day and age, it's almost as if you need to have a certain amount of merit to know about merit and to learn about how to cultivate merit, because the overall tendency is for most of society to be kind of slowly darkening. And so if you're one of those fortunate people, I guess leading by example, you know, just showing that when you are generous and ethical, a virtuous person, and you meditate, that you are a more serene, a more radiant, and even more joyful, not necessarily like party boy, party girl, but more joy, simple joy. And that's a good example for one's partner to see. And I guess dedicate merit from your practice. May my partner get with the program. Due to this merit, may their mind brighten. Now, that's another thing people don't realize. People don't take it, I think. Well, my father told me once, he was behind a woman in the shop, and she was saying, she obviously taken on some belief in karma and rebirth, partially. And she was saying to this woman in the shop, I want to be reborn as a cat, she said. My cat just eats and sleeps all day, gets cuddles. I want a life like that. I don't want to have to work. So I believe in karma and rebirth. So next life I want to be born as a cat. So my dad told me this, and I'm like, uh-oh, because you know, one of the reasons human beings like cats is because we can project a lot of things onto them. I've got a new cat myself, as you know. I can't show you his development from here. I'm in Bangkok, but I did some study about cats and dogs. Just bore you with a little bit of trivia here. Apparently, there are 600 million pet cats in the world, as opposed to 250 million pet dogs, approximately. One of the reasons people like cats is, well, they're easier to take care of. But apparently dogs have more muscles in their faces, so you actually can tell more accurately what they're thinking. But cats have many, many, many less muscles in their faces. So because cats don't make much expression, what that means is we can project things onto them, and we can have conversations with them, and we can imagine that they're talking back to us. Hi cat, how are you today? And we think we know what the cat's mood is, and the cat's just thinking, just feed me. And just let me out for a walk now or whatever. And so anyway, the thing about being born as a cat is cats need to sleep for 18 hours a day. So with regards to the sloth and torpor hindrance that we all struggle with at times, how much sloth and torpor do you think a cat has? And do you think a cat is going to have much mindfulness at the time of death, having slept for 18 hours a day? But 10 years. So be careful what you wish for. And so we have to be mindful not to project more happiness onto the animal realm than is there. So if you get born as a male cat, probably going to have your private parts, some of your private parts chopped off at 6 months, aren't you? And nobody's going to ask you if you wanted that or not. So, so there are consequences. And another thing is the ghost realm. Like, I'm not going to make a claim to having psychic powers, right? But anybody who's done 30,000 hours of meditation, as I have, is going to see something sometimes. And I don't have any doubt about the existence of ghosts. And they're not happy. So, the consequences of breaking precepts often is the likelihood of being born as a ghost or an animal. That's if you haven't made too much bad karma. And in the beginning, I didn't believe in hell realms. When I was 15, I believed in angels and I believed in Nibbana when I studied Buddhism. And I believed in ghosts and rebirth and karma and all those things, but I didn't believe in hell. Now I do. Now I have no doubt about the existence of hell. So be careful. If you die with a very heavy, dark mind state, the doors to hell can open. It's very hard to get out. So for those of us who have some wisdom, to be ethical, generous, meditate a lot, cultivate loving kindness, and then the devas will help you to have a peaceful death and a happy rebirth. The good will take care of the good. So you want to align yourself vibrationally with positive forces of the universe.
Sadhu. Thank you, Prajan. Dear Ajahn, I moved 2 years ago to a new house. Previously, this house was the home of one very devout Muslim. Since moving here, my health has become incredibly bad, with issues one after another, and I lost my job. More than one Buddhist item that I have has been affected too. In one instance, among others, of a wood panel with a picture of the Buddha falling down, and although it was hard wood and fell onto a soft carpet, it was so shattered, it appeared as though it was thrown with incredible force. I meditate a lot and follow the Dhamma. I have spread metta all around, even to the being who is doing this. My Muslim friends have told me that a Muslim spirit has remained in the house, and it is upset because Muslims consider chanting in front of and bowing to statues to be worshipping false idols. This situation is getting worse. What can I do beyond spreading loving kindness and being equanimous during all these torments? Thank you, Ajahn.
So these things happen. These things do happen. Beings get attached to their views, and sometimes having a too fundamental attachment to your view can cause you to, if you fall into judgmentalness of others, can cause you to be attached to hanging around and judging people, because it's not a bright, like a truly devout Muslim, if they were really to be contemplating the fact that according to their view God had created everything, then you have to love all creation, right? Because it's God's creation. That's a kind of a skillful theistic view. His Holiness the Dalai Lama mentions that often. It's okay, God's all powerful, God created everything, so then you should be kind and gracious towards God's creation. So I don't think there's any theistic religion that actually teaches at its core tenet that you should punish and persecute and find fault with and be judgmental. That's a kind of a degeneration or a misunderstanding, or when dark qualities in people's minds get co-opted into a spiritual view, and then basically it's unskillful. So I told the story before when I was in Ladakh, staying in a homestay place with Francois, and we were meditating, and I was simply having the thought, no, so I'll tell you what happened. Candles were on the shrine. It was a warm summer afternoon. Windows were open, no breeze. And all of a sudden, the window slammed shut. And the candles fluttered and went out. And there was no wind and no breeze. Francois, my lay steward, asked me, well, first he said, "Oh, John, something is wrong." "I think there is a ghost." And I said, "I think so too." Judging by that cold shiver up my spine and the fact that the window just slammed shut and the candles blew out by themselves. And I asked him, "What were you thinking just now?" I actually said to it, before I asked him what I'm thinking, I said, "I think it is a ghost. And you know what? I think it's a Muslim. Can I ask you what you were thinking?" So what had happened was, while I think Leh, the capital city of Ladakh, has a maybe a 10% Muslim population. And they have their mosque, of course, and then there's the Muslim call to prayer several times a day. So while we were meditating, the Akbar kind of was happening. And Francois, I was thinking while that was happening, Ladakh played a really important role in Buddhism during the time that the Muslims were destroying all the monasteries in northern India. I wasn't feeling particularly angry. I wasn't feeling judgmental. I was just contemplating and acknowledging the fact that because the Turkish Muslim, the Mongol Turks, they called them, were invading for a couple of centuries and burning all the monasteries and killing the monks and nuns and chopping off the noses of the statues and all that other stuff, they didn't get to Ladakh. And so Ladakh was very high in the mountains and very difficult to pass in winter. And so some of the important texts of Indian esoteric Buddhism originating in Nalanda went along the Silk Trail from Ladakh and actually became like Shingon Buddhism in Japan, for example. So I was just thinking Ladakh played an important role in preserving Buddhist texts. Francois was thinking, this Muslim call to prayer is too loud. I'm going to write a letter to the tourist authority and tell them that they should do something about this, because it's a predominantly Buddhist place and that they should tell these Muslims to turn down their prayer. So we, in our own way, we were both having critical thoughts of Muslims, right? And so this is very interesting to notice, because it means that ghosts can hear your thoughts, okay? Important thing to make a mental note of. And so, of course, we did the Metta Sutta and dedicated merits, and because it wasn't a Buddhist, it didn't go away. You could feel this cold, angry, icy presence in the room. And so we asked the owner of the property, and he said, there was a Muslim person who was trying to buy the block of land right next door, and they weren't able to because the authorities kind of stuffed them around and wouldn't give them their title deed. So then it became obvious that that human being that wanted that land was very attached to it, didn't get the title deed, and just decided to stay. And so when that entity heard Francois and I thinking critical thoughts about Muslims, he came and showed his displeasure. So anyway, like I said, we did the chanting and spread merit, spread loving kindness. It didn't go away. So I ended up just going into the room and said, all right, you can have that land. That piece of land is yours. I give it to you. It was just a bit of creative playing with conventions. You can have that. It's yours. Go there. That's your home. But this house, this is Buddhist. Go over there. And that actually worked. After that, the ghost went away. So if that house belonged to a Muslim person and they were very attached to it, so either like if you had access to someone like Ajahn Bhikkhananan, one of these Buddhist samadhi superheroes, they could do something about it. But if you're like, they can kind of establish samadhi force fields and all sorts of amazing things. But for more ordinary practitioners, sometimes not much can be done. So if a being is deciding to be hostile towards you, that doesn't have anything to do with, so we kind of assume we spread loving kindness, we ask for forgiveness, we just have this assumption that you'll be forgiven. And we need to understand that some beings have a hostile inclination and they don't want your loving kindness and they're not going to forgive you. They just want you to go away. So if I was this person, I would probably find a new place to live and let a Muslim move in. So that's what I do. First of all, I'd invite Ajahn Anandalompubiek if that's an option. If it's not an option, I'm going to go and find a house that was owned by a nice Buddhist.
Ajahn Achalo, I will be most grateful for your thoughts on why all the pairs of chief disciples of all the Buddhas passed away before the Blessed Ones they are serving. Similarly, could Venerable Sariputta have extended his life force to live longer than 84 years if he had wanted to? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question, and I understand why the person would wonder this, because obviously the role of the chief disciples is to support the Buddha and to make his dispensation last a long time and to do things in his, make his dispensation, it's like a synergy thing. It's more effective, spreads further, lasts longer. When Mahamoggallana had psychic powers equal to the Buddha and Sariputta had wisdom equal to the Buddha, apparently Sariputta used to ripen many beings' minds to the level of stream entry, and Mahamoggallana helped them to finish off to the level of arahantship. And so sometimes Sariputta was considered to be like the wet nurse, nursing practitioners in their beginning stages, and Mahamoggallana is like the father that got them to graduate. And I think part of it might be when the Buddha was passing away, he said, because he didn't want it to turn into any kind of a personality cult, he said, these suttas, these teachings, the 84,000 Dhamma verses and these rules, Dhamma Vinaya, should be your teacher when I am gone. And so rather than everybody begging Sariputta to be the next Buddha or Moggallana to be the Buddha was saying, remember what I taught you and practice it. This is your refuge. Because it's so deep in beings to want to deify a being and then be rescued by a being. And Lord Buddha was teaching the process towards realizing not self. And some of the great disciples did live to be past Lord Buddha, like Mahakassapa was the one who lit the funeral pyre after the Buddha passed away. And the Mahakassapa and Ananda called the first Sangha Council and canonized the suttas and the Vinaya. So some of them remained, but not those with the equal wisdom and equal psychic power of the Buddha. Could Sariputta have decided to live longer? Possibly, but I assume that he would think, if the Buddha isn't going to, I'm not going to. That's, he's taking the Buddha as his Lord and guide and example. So Yeah, I think I've sometimes thought about this because I personally don't believe, because they say that if Ananda had asked the Buddha to stay on to the end of the eon, that he could have. And personally, I love Ananda, and I don't think he made any mistakes. I could be wrong, but that's just my personal feeling. And the reason I have that feeling is, the beings who have karma with a particular Buddha, it's finite. Even though it's like 500 million Buddhists in the world now, it's a lot, right? People who have karma with the Buddha. But obviously the other 6,500,000,000 don't. And I think the Buddha stayed for the perfect amount of time. He said before he entered final Nibbana, he said the quality of the monks and nuns is already less. And in the future, it will be, compared to the first couple of thousand, where all arahants with full psychic powers behaved impeccably, nobody did anything wrong, right? And then after 45 years, there's more and more rules and a percentage of them behaving poorly. So what I think might have occurred is, or would have occurred, is if the Buddha was still around now, and all of the beings that had enough spiritual faculties to become arahants had become arahants, then those beings who are more stubborn and less sensitive would actually be making bad karma in relationship to a Buddha by not paying respects to him, by not honoring him, by not giving interest and possibly relating to him unskillfully. So my personal feeling is that the Buddha checked out of samsara at precisely the right moment. And having left a great number of great disciples and 84,000 verses of teaching, and knowing that it would continue for 5,000 more years. So, yeah, I trust the Buddha, and I trust Ananda, and I trust Sariputta. Spend time with you.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Hope to see you next week. So listen up,
Bye-bye.
you fortunate beings, you with little dust in your eyes.
Yes.
Practice hard.
No bliss.
Human rebirth, heaven and beyond. Okay?
Okay.
Sadu, sadu,
Bye.
sadu, sadu, sadu,
Sadu, sadu, sadu.
sadu, sadu, sadu.